Merry Christmas, and happy holidays, one and all. Tony and I, as we do every year, are going to be celebrating with a little on-camera gift exchange. Now, normally, him and I go, and we go one at a time like you would in a family, give each other our gifts, get our reactions back and forth, but I figured this year it may be a bit more interesting if we go ahead and give each other our gifts simultaneously. How does that sound to you, Tony? Abso-fucking-lutely it does. All right. This year, all this family fucking fun is going to be brought to you even faster because we know how much that short-form content plays well on this website. Isn't that right, Tony? Why don't we go ahead and on 3, 2, 1, we show that I got you a brand new 3, 2, 1 Xbox! Brand recognition.
You've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
Oh my.
So, Colin, as it has become tradition on this year, I'm picking out the last movie of the season, of the year. It's a Christmas movie, in my eyes at least. I gotta pick something different. I'm feeling like making a change from the last couple of years. First one, I wanted to establish a tradition of doing Ghibli movies. We just kind of didn't end up doing that.
Thanks, copyright box. And Ghibli in general, we appreciate you.
The second year, I thought we'd take a nice light stroll into the land of anime, and it ended with anger. And not great.
You're looking sexier than ever, Mistia.
I personally need something kind of cozy, and I don't really think there's anything that does that better on Christmas and in the Christmas season than black and white films, right? I need a good cry, to be honest. After a long year of bullshit, I decided to get something that's kind of tragically romantic and somber in ways.
Okay.
And I also want to wrap up our journey into end of an era films in a way that only seems reasonable and logical with the end of mankind, the end of life as we know it. So I chose kind of an apocalyptic thing.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any way for you to guess what this is, so I think today we'll just go right on ahead and let you bust into it and see what we're watching.
I have no clue, and I hope I like this one.
I hope I didn't give away too many hints in the year going into this.
The only thing I can think of is like I Am Legend, but I don't see how that ties into Christmas. So
I've never seen I Am Legend.
I'm talking about the book, but thank you.
Okay.
I'm a hipster. Yeah, I have no clue. I know you've brought this up before. On the Beach. I think I was there when you purchased this.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is a Gregory Peck movie. I, of course, adore Gregory Peck. And it's got Ava Gardner. Oh, let's go ahead and put that Tarantino clip up there once again.
You like Ava Gardner?
Sorry.
Ava Gardner. Do you like her?
Fred Astaire and Anthony Perkins. We got our boy Norman Bates
Oh yeah.
as well. So stacked fucking cast.
Oh yeah. This is one of the finer examples of director and producer Stanley Kramer's work that I've come across.
Okay.
And it follows along in a long laid path of mainstream films, or at least films aimed at the mainstream, that challenge audiences to some degree with under-discussed or maybe taboo topics and ways of thinking. Screenplay written by John Paxton, based upon the original book by Neville Shute. There's a lot of changes from the book, which I'm glad I listened to it a little while ago. I'll get into that. Fantastic music by Ernest Gold, common collaborator of Kramer's.
Okay.
Once again, starring Gregory Peck, Ava Gardner. She's not on the front bill, but I think that's a crime. We're introducing Donna Anderson, and she's wonderful. Colin, have you heard anything about this? Have you had anything spoiled for it? And do you have anything to say going in?
No, I know nothing. I'm just happy that not only did you pick a live action film, you picked an older film, but specifically you picked one from the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, 59.
Which has kind of become one of my sweet spots.
With all that said, why don't we all board the last American submarine and take a trip to the land down under and stand on the beach?
What's this? Ah, yes, one of those famous mice nooses. Anyways.
So, Colin, would you like to give the folks back home a quick plot synopsis of On the Beach?
On the Beach is a film starring Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner, most prominently, Anthony Perkins, other woman that you mentioned earlier, in supporting roles plus a large supporting cast. But for the most part, our leads are Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner. Gregory Peck is a navalman from America. Not that you can tell who is from where in this because their accents are
kind of mishmashed together, yeah.
Not really mishmashed. Everyone's American except for the extras.
Yeah.
So, but he's from America, and due to some reason or another, I'm gonna be honest, I think I may have missed it, but they're over in Australia now to take some kind of refuge, and towards what they're touting as the end of the atomic war, which I'm going to assume is a fictional thing made up in sort of the height of the Red Scare. And during this point, some of the characters are seemingly trying to get Gregory Peck laid or out of some kind of stupor. And it's sort of the story of him falling in love with Ava Gardner, who's got her own set of baggage that she goes on. And love ensues over the runtime, and then in the last 20 or so minutes, radiation sickness finally hits this area in Melbourne and Brisbane, and everyone just kind of slowly dies and accepts their fate. And it's very clearly the thing that Hollywood studios were interested in depicting out of all of this movie, because it's the stuff where the visual ideas come in the most.
It's basically just a bunch of people that have somehow survived nuclear war. The last few people left in a position that no one really fucking expected was that anyone would still be alive after the bombs dropped. And they're all kind of coming to terms with their own mortality and their own fate in their own ways, some of which healthy, some of which very, very not healthy.
Now, this is a special kind of sleeping pill. I had a devil of a time getting them, but I wanted you to have them on hand and to make sure you knew how to use them. What happens with the radiation is that you get ill. You start feeling sick, and then you are sick.
You're not trying to tell me you want me to kill Jennifer.
Mary, don't be an idiot. Supposing you get it first, what are you going to do then? Struggle on by yourself until you drop?
How did you enjoy the film? Is there anything that you want to start talking about?
It's a little, I guess, less extreme on either end than I was expecting from the way you were describing this. I thought it was pretty all right.
Okay.
I think there are a lot of interesting ideas that overall I don't think coalesce into a cohesive, focused, or tonally consistent film that I think really works. There are lots of things I like about this, and it took me till about halfway through the movie to really come to terms with the fact that this is an adaptation of a book that very clearly is missing a lot. And overall, I thought it was pretty all right. Like I said, I'm pretty split down the middle, probably like a 2.5 stars.
Yeah.
On this, the stuff that I guess I like is sort of the human aspects that are sort of hinted at throughout the film, and lots of like ethical questions being asked, and sort of what the final 20 minutes are dedicated towards.
Yeah.
I guess my problems really would come over the fact that I think this is too fucking long for what we're getting within this hugely long runtime, right?
Yeah.
I don't really buy a lot of the emotions of a lot of the relationships going on here. Ava Gardner is a very good actor. Gregory Peck is obviously a very good actor.
Yes.
Anthony Perkins is obviously a very good actor. I don't emotionally buy into any of these relationships. And something I guess I was unclear on that I want to double check. So Gregory Peck's original wife and children are dead.
Yes. So,
Okay,
so his whole thing is his family is dead.
Yeah.
And in the book, this situation with him is even more extreme. His family in America is dead. It's very obvious that they're dead. There's no way that anyone in America is dead because they're one of the nuclear superpowers. So clearly they're the ones that got absolutely decimated, obliterated in the nuclear war.
Yeah.
There's no hope. There never was any hope.
Yeah.
But he cannot break away from the idea that, you know, instead of him going off to war and dying and leaving his family alive back at home, it's the reverse, where by happenstance of just being on this sub somewhere in the middle of the ocean between things when all this goes down, somehow he survived. And also it being a nuclear sub, meaning he could potentially continue to survive and serve and move on and find refuge there in Australia. You know, he was never expecting that sort of thing to happen. So it never clicks in his brain that it's even possible.
My wife's name is Sharon. I have a couple of kids. Richard, 8. Helen, 5. Dick is the real sailor of the family. He is going to go to Annapolis. Oh, that's to be expected. He'll probably change his mind.
In the book especially, he moves on to be like, oh, well, I've got to prepare for Christmas when I come back home, when I'm...
Okay, well, I guess that's the thing with the film then.
Yeah.
What I'm really confused on, why the fuck did you label this as a Christmas movie? Separate from the book.
I brought up I just wanted a movie that's like, not necessarily, it gives me the Christmas vibes. And for me, once again, there's nothing that's more cathartic for me on Christmas than watching like something truly fucking devastating. And this is very fucking devastating.
I don't agree. Okay, so this film's, I guess, kind of formula would be copied in '97, years and years and years later, with a movie like Titanic.
No.
I love Titanic a lot. This is sort of, you know, down to its last shot, this film is kind of really counting on the fact that this is sort of speculative future fiction. For what may happen, what could happen, you know, whatever the fuck have you. It's building off of a lot of anxieties that are occurring right now because of what was happening with Russia at the time and everything. The thing that I guess that I think works about something like Titanic that doesn't work here is it's taking a real world historical event, something that everyone knows it's an end we're building towards. Everyone here is going to fucking die.
No.
And that is a backdrop for a very focused, narrow romance with these two people as stuff is kind of happening in the background.
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege playing with you tonight.
So by the time you finally get to the end, and you've really just honed in on this one relationship, it's all the more tragic as this is happening. And then also, all these other people are scrounging for devastation as stuff is going down. This movie really wants to do something like that, especially in its final 20 minutes.
No.
But like I said, I don't emotionally buy into a lot of these people's relationships. So that whole, I guess, hour and 20 minutes leading up to it, it's fine. Like, there's nothing for me that I guess I'm emotionally latching onto.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, the military stuff is dull as rocks to me.
Vent shut, ready to surface her.
I would say that the movie does hinge on whether or not you buy some of these characters and their struggles. And I really do buy the, between Anthony Perkins' character and Donna Anderson especially. When I see her, like, staring off into the fucking, into the side of the room, like, past someone, and I see her eyes start to twitch and, you know, trying to keep, it's like she's repressing something and trying to focus somewhere else, trying to be somewhere else so desperately, like she ends up trying to be quite literally at the end when she packs her suitcases and intends on leaving for London. It's really, really heartbreaking to watch her be in that place, and whenever things start to get serious, she dives back into it.
And I guess, in a similar note, if Anthony Perkins in this movie wasn't such an insensitive prick a lot of the times with that kind of stuff, I feel like I would relate to her a lot more, because to me, it's like, you know, I understand the anxieties, and I understand, not personally what you're feeling, although sometimes I delves into that with our current political situation and thinking about that kind of stuff. But that being said, like, with her specifically, I get almost frustrated.
Okay.
Because it's like at these moments where everything's about to end, you can't just delve off and you have to kind of accept what's going on.
Yeah.
And I get frustrated, and I guess it's more so frustrated with the way this movie decides to depict women as a whole, in sort of this way that men in this film have their duty, and they have a place to go and a place to be, and outside of, like, the women that they're with, there's sort of this sense of, like, you know, Gregory Peck has a duty. He loves this woman, and there's something wrong with companionship or seeking a relationship in these hard times. But all these women, and the way they're written, it's like they're just given the man, and the man is their only defining character trait. And because the man is taking control of the situation, at a certain point, it just kind of feels like they're there to be, like, emotional props. And yes, no, you relating to that with Anthony Perkins' wife, obviously I have to acknowledge, like, it emotionally connected with you.
Yeah.
So this is a me thing. I just find a lot of what's happening with her character to be a man writing a woman to kind of just be emotionally undependable in a situation. And at a certain point, it just kind of becomes like eye-rolling, because every scene with them starts to turn into a repeat of the same thing over and over and over again, right up until the end. And I think there are ways to make that work, and I think there are ways to make Anthony Perkins' character being the opposite kind of work with her. But as a result, it's like Anthony Perkins just kind of comes off as, like, weirdly stoic unless he's not during certain sequences. I don't know, because it's like I haven't seen Psycho in a few years. The last thing I watched Anthony Perkins in was The Trial when I was watching that. And that movie, he's so fucking weird in that movie. Everyone's so fucking weird in that movie.
Yeah.
It's very much just like a lot of French New Wave influence coming in. So people aren't acting a lot like normal people in that film. It very much feels like what inspires a lot of, like, modern indie films where people aren't really acting normal. But in this, I just kind of get this sense that it's going for sort of a very traditional kind of, like, 50s romance with what's going on, but up against the backdrop.
Yeah, of the futility of the situation and the inevitability of everybody's death. And that's kind of like where I really connect with this movie is that, you know, Anthony Perkins and Gregory Peck, you know, they are acting like 1950s like stereotypes, because that's kind of like what they're grown up and raised up to be their whole lives, and thinking maybe there's a chance that we'll find something if we go on this journey back towards America and this roundabout way up towards if they go on this roundabout journey, maybe we'll find something. Maybe, and that's kind of our role. But the whole time it was futile. It was pointless, you know. And that's all like emphasized by the mouse suicide area.
Yes, one of those famous mice misses.
It's not my problem that they're acting like 1950s stereotypes, being that this was made in 1958. It's more so that all they are is 1950s stereotypes, and at the very end, I don't know, I was just kind of like left a little baffled over what I'm supposed to feel of like him and Ava Gardner's relationship. I don't even find it like it's not that I find it like unbelievable that those two would like end up together and like seek each other in moments of comfort.
Yeah.
But by the end, I don't know, it just kind of I don't feel anything. And I don't feel anything throughout a majority of the runtime, so a lot of these big sweeping moments that in a movie that I feel had a better script may have emotionally affected me, we're just kind of met with a shoulder shrug.
I love you.
I guess I found that combined with like the inconsistent use of different cinematic techniques to be kind of like all over the place. There are certain shots in this movie that are beautiful and well composed, but so much of this film is just kind of get a group of actors together, set the camera in front of them, and have them talk, which isn't uncommon for a lot of 1950s cinema. No. But then it's like you have a lot of these shots, like the shot towards the end where Ava Gardner and Gregory Peck are standing in front of the water, and it's like glittering in front of it. It looks beautiful, but man, Stanley Kramer loves pointless Dutch angles, almost as much as Battlefield Earth.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
I love me a good motivated Dutch angle, but it's like, at the points where he does it, I'm like, why are you tilting the camera?
Like, let me bring up a point specific. When they're on the porch and they're talking, and she's saying, "Oh, I'm supposed to be the one that's comforting you." Is that like appropriate, not appropriate for you?
That's like fine. That's whatever. Like that makes sense. But then it's like, I don't. It just like it. It almost feels like I'm like there are moments to where I can kind of like snap to predict, but like it felt consistently used, almost like in a similar that Roger Ebert talked about Battlefield Earth. Now I'm not comparing this movie to Battlefield Earth. Battlefield Earth is a movie that is like entirely Dutch angles, and it looks ridiculous. But Roger Ebert's criticism of that is that like the director of this film found out what a Dutch angle is, and he thought they looked cool, but he didn't understand the context of which you're supposed to use them. It felt like Stanley Kramer found out what a Dutch angle was, found out you're supposed to use it to like add some sort of like off-kilter, maybe uncanny vibe to a scene.
Which works in some parts of this movie because the whole world is off-kilter and everything's falling apart. That's kind of why that works on like the porch scene for me.
But there are certain moments to where I'm just like, well, why are you putting it here? I just like, I don't have specific examples off the top of my head, but it just didn't really work as much for me. The whole kind of idea of this for me, and kind of like my feelings on it being that the movie overall I don't think works, but has these like little nice moments that feel good. Yeah. And as a result of like having these moments that it's not cohesively focusing into something that I think works overall, it just kind of ends up feeling like bloated, where simultaneously not a lot happens.
I can kind of get that. It's the design is basically just to get you sort of endeared to these characters and watch their day-to-day lives that they still kind of go through, even though there's no real point in going through it all, as once again in the futility, so that when it all does finally come to an end, that you're kind of like sat there going, oh, I can't believe it. It's a terrible, awful thing.
I like these ideas.
Yeah.
I'm sure I may like the book. I don't like the execution. To me, this felt like a really, like if I'm looking at this as an adaptation, either you make this a 3-hour movie where you really endear me to these people and I get to know like the personal intimacies of their relationship. Maybe not make it during the point where the Hays Code is just starting to fucking lift. Maybe you could do something that I would find a bit more interesting and I would care about these people more, or you streamline it and you're really kind of focusing on just these two people.
Yeah.
Not saying you completely cut characters out, but maybe just kind of...
Yeah, because the side characters in this I really do enjoy. Ones I really like, John Tate and Lola Brooks, they play Admiral Birdie and Lieutenant Hosgood. Basically just like an older bureaucratic, maybe not bureaucratic, but like administrative officer for the Australian Navy that's got kind of nothing to do anymore.
Yeah.
And his assistant, who he's surprised is like not going out and doing anything, and he keeps giving her these opportunities. Go on, go out, see, find a boyfriend, do this, that, the other thing. And she says, "Oh no, I'll be here." And towards the end, where they share a drink together, and he says,
"There's one thing that always bothered me, Osgood. A girl like you. Why no young men?"
They never asked me. I guess maybe it was the uniform.
To a blind world.
it's like that little thing is just, it's this little side character that you don't think you're gonna give that much of a shit about. And then they kind of wrap it up at the end, and it's like, it tugs on my heartstrings a lot.
I guess, like, it's one of those things to where I'm like, that's the tiny bits where the movie feels like it has cool ideas.
Yeah.
Because, like, the minute it's like he's, like, sort of making a pass at her and sort of knowing the topic of this movie once, like, you know, they start talking about, like, nuclear war, and you brought up the end of the world, I'm like, oh, well, that's gonna, like, pay off by the end. I just, like... I don't know, it was almost this thing of, because the core of the movie itself isn't working for me, a lot of these side things are just kind of like, that works, and that's cool. I can objectively see a lot of these things working, I just don't feel it.
Yeah, it's not connecting, like, on an emotional level with you, which is, you know, that's just what's going to happen with some people, is like, you don't like or you don't connect to this character, and if that's what your movie is hinging upon, that's just the way that things go.
It's like Stanley Kramer, you know, he directed like one of the most famous movies about the Nazis ever, Judgment at Nuremberg. I haven't seen that one. I know it's just very famous and it's very much considered good. He's also directed one of the largest fucking like comedies of all time. It's Mad, 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 Mad World. That movie's fucking great, and it's like awesome, and that also deals with like a large cast, just like Judgment at Nuremberg deals with a large cast. And I understand why either he was put on this or why he chose to do this, because it very much seems like it would fit him. But to me, it's like, I don't know, I needed more intimacy.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's like, I guess the stretch of time, like besides Titanic, the other movie I was thinking about a lot during this was It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
Which is one of the best films ever made. It's
and an actual Christmas film.
No, it's and it's perfect. And it's like, that's a movie that's just pretty consistently about following this person over a large stretch of time with a bunch of side characters and a bunch of stuff. But at the end of the day, the movie is very focused on the fact that this is George Bailey's story. And George Bailey pretty consistently having to put others before himself.
Yeah.
And that culminates, you know, sort of in the final 20 or 30 minutes or so where he tries to commit suicide.
He sees the world without him, and then it's brought back by a miracle. I want to live again. And all that
no, and it's, you know, obviously it's one of the best emotional payoffs to a movie ever. And, you know, I give a shit about this. I don't know who Gregory Peck is in the film. Once again, maybe this changes in the book. And because he's being portrayed as such like a stoic, not standoffish, he still has a lot of chivalrous aspects to him.
Yeah.
But I'm just still kind of like, there's still a wall between Gregory Peck and myself, and I just want to know more about the guy, and I want to know more about Ava Gardner. They imply a lot of stuff, which normally I may be able to find interesting, but I'm not intuiting.
I mean, they get some lines in there that are very... you know, that infer quite a lot about their characters, where it's like she talking, she's talking to Fred Astaire's character in the garage, and she's talking about all these men, how there's always never really been a vacuum, how whenever she loses one man, she just has someone else in the wings to swing in and grab. And that was her whole plan going to the garage to see his character in the first place, was to try and fill that void. And she's realizing the thing that she's missing her entire life is love and companionship in a sort of like less physical way and more like emotional.
Yeah, emotional intimacy.
Yeah. And she's realizing like, oh, he has a wife and he has kids and he refuses to let go of that.
Yeah.
So, and you know, if they were still alive, I would have used any dirty trick that I have to swing in and take him, which kind of infers her character in the world long before all these things sort of happened. But, you know, it's one of those things where they're inferring at that. Obviously, if this movie were much, much longer, they could just show it. Yeah. And that would be interesting as well.
I don't even think it needs to show it. I just want to know a bit more. I don't know. I don't know, because like you're describing a lot of the stuff, and I'm like, no, that's interesting, objectively. Yeah. But while I was watching it, I was just kind of, it's like, you're talking about that scene in general, and I guess I want to talk about the one character in this movie that I'm like, no, you infer just a little bit, and you imply quite a bit, and you don't have to show so much. And I think he's also giving the best performance in this movie. Fred Astaire is fucking great.
In the end, somehow granted the time for examination, we shall find that our so-called civilization was gloriously destroyed by a handful of vacuum tubes and transistors. Probably 40.
He's the one that's got some, like, meat to him. And every monologue that he gives about sort of his contribution to the whole situation, the whole world situation going on, and how he feels about everything. Yeah, you could probably call it a little, like, doomer and shit, but it's a guy who feels immense amounts of guilt.
Who is being constantly pestered as an egghead that knows everything.
Yeah.
Hey, can you explain why and how this happened?
No, and it's like, he's just a dude with a death wish at the end of the day. With it, it's like, why does he race cars? Why does he do this super dangerous stuff? Oh, because he wants to fucking kill himself.
Yeah, hence why he turns down Ava Gardner.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I don't deserve to have a relationship after all of this. Yeah. Absolutely not.
And on top of that, it's like, even if he did feel like he deserved to have a relationship with her, maybe it's this thing of, you don't deserve to be left behind by me in the fallout of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, his character is very, very good.
No, I like his character, and I specifically like his death scene quite a bit. It's really, really, really well executed.
There's something about that makes me want to launch into a certain hour that we like to do on this show.
I don't know what hour you're talking about during this holiday season of ours. This jangling Santa's on top of the rooftop. Tony's musical hour.
That scene in particular has a trick that they use a lot, and it's kind of pairing with the editing, of course, is they will cut to some very big dramatic or like big powerful musical thing, right? They're replaying or playing something similar to what is going on during the race scene, where he's actually racing the Ferrari, and it's building and it's building, and the engine is revving and revving, and it's getting louder and louder, and then they just hard cut. Like a hard cut to either silence or to somebody else's like own dramatic moment,
which is very modern. That is a cutting technique. The 50s is very, I mean, obviously common, not like in sort of the transitions of stuff. There's a lot of crossfades that the 50s use a lot, and they crossfade in audio as well. So just a hard cut for that sudden kind of jolt to the viewer. No, it is very modern. And I mean, with the score, I guess something I want to bring up.
Yeah.
There are moments where I'm like, I think this is really good and really appropriate for what's going on. And then there are other moments, once again, I'm unhelpful, where I can't think of specifics off the top of my head.
Yeah.
To where it kind of felt like there was music just for the sake of music.
Okay.
Not that it's like poorly composed or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just movies from this era, a lot of times, because sound is like there and we have the ability to do it, we'll either just put music there a lot, or there'll just be like no music whatsoever.
Yeah. I'm fine with some silence, especially in the military sections when they're on the submarine. I think it's actually kind of nice to just be silent and in there with them.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite like themes, and it's obviously you hear it a lot during the promotions for this, is that weird syncopated like. It's bells and it's strings and it's like harps that are just plucking away discordantly. It's like it's the song that plays when they rise up in San Francisco. It sounds almost like a fucking orchestra. The music itself fell apart into rubble and is now still just kind of dragging along. It's like 2 or 3 different pieces that are all put together, yet somehow still like fit as far as like as actual key and melody and all that sort of thing. And it fits with like this fucking Ozymandian sight of an empty fucking San Francisco. Nobody around, nobody to fucking see anything. That will soon all be ash and rubble, right?
Okay. I understand what you're saying, but that's an example of something that I think it's ill-fitting.
Okay.
I get what they're going for. You know, the horror, oh, it's empty. The fact that, like, the fallout being there hasn't really affected the city visually, that it just kind of looks normal. And they bring this up in the movie. But as a result, it just kind of looks like static city footage. I thought it was kind of silly. And if that was, once again, effective for you, more power to you.
No, there's just something about the world is over, and yet everything still kind of is just there. Like they said, they said this in the movie where they're like, I was expecting there to be more damage, you know, because it's over. It's supposed to be over. Like it's the end of the world. When you think of the end of the world, you think about burned buildings and destroyed infrastructure and bodies piled in the streets. But then you come here and you're disappointed to see that it all is just kind of sat there ready to rot for the rest of time.
And I guess that kind of ties into something that I at least like. It's an aspect of the movie that I find interesting and wish the movie was shorter for its own sake. This movie, I guess all these little moments that you're kind of talking about, these little side character moments, why I think those work so much is because they kind of operate as vignettes, while our main character, to me at least, is really dull.
Okay.
And as a result, he's involved with a lot of the military stuff, which I just find really dull. A lot of the interior submarine stuff. I understand what they're trying to do, but like, there's just a lot of stuff that I don't get. The guy going out to San Francisco, though, I'm like, okay, this is an interesting concept, and I think the execution is pretty good. And I almost wish the movie was kind of made up of sort of like individually watching these characters be picked off over the runtime.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
if they wanted to focus more on the military and that sort of aspect in the submarine.
I don't even necessarily think it has to be on the submarine. I just mean over the runtime. It's like by the time you get to those final 30 minutes, that's when people start disappearing.
Yeah.
And to me, if like you really wanted to hone in, have every character be as developed as each other, and then suddenly, oh, he's just gone.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the conceit of this movie. And this is where I guess I'm kind of being like, this is too long. And if you wanted to do that kind of conceit, which wouldn't be what the film is at all, but where it would, I guess, be interesting to me is if, like, you played more into what I felt like the final 30 minutes of this, like, we're trying to be, which is like a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that to me is at least a bit more interesting. And Twilight Zone, I mean, has its own episode concretely about sort of that, like, isolation in the apocalypse that you're talking about. The entire episode where it's about, like, the guy who's super into reading and just wants to be alone. And finally he arrives back in the apocalypse and he's by himself with all the books in the world. And then the dramatic irony, spoilers, is his fucking glasses end up breaking on the ground so he can't read it all. Like, it's it's like a perfect little micro story, and I feel like this movie has the opportunity to be, I guess, a lot more interesting by packing in a lot more of those.
Yeah.
Unless, once again, you were to focus on sort of these fictional characters.
Yeah.
And I find it weird that the more fictional thing that isn't Titanic feels more adherent to history that doesn't exist by like not changing anything with like, I mean, okay, I don't know necessarily. It feels very like rigidly like these events need to occur for these people and we can't adhere out of that to like sort of focus more in on them. Meanwhile, Titanic is the historical thing with the fictional relationship.
Yeah.
That just focuses on them, and as a result the movie feels a lot more like humanly connected.
I think the through line for this movie is sort of everything feels like it is okay until it is pretty suddenly and quite violently not. And you just have to kind of live with that. And that's kind of the terror and the quiet drama of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if that's not getting to you, then, you know, it's just not getting to you. Maybe if I showed you this movie 10 years from now and you're in a totally different situation and looking at it different, maybe you'd see it, but I don't know. That's the way it is. That's the thing about Kramer, is he has this whole sort of thing, especially with he has like an extensive like production career before he started directing.
Yeah.
He is the type of guy that sees an idea and says, no, we can make that work. No, that can totally work. And whenever it doesn't work, he's been on like the BBC archive, or I've seen on the BBC archive interviews with this guy where they've talked about his failures, especially, where he said like almost everything I've worked on, I can either see working, and when I'm working on it in the moment, nothing ever seems like impossible or like a time waster or like not a very guaranteed money maker, you know?
Yeah.
He's very invested in what he's doing. He says there's probably a way to make this work with just about anything. And, you know, sometimes you come out with something like the 5,000 Fingers, which people lauded at the time.
Baller fucking movie.
And then sometimes you come out with something like fucking High Noon, and, you know, people are praise that to high heaven. And, you know, in the making of, I think those two movies were just about as important as one another to him.
No.
And, you know, he's just, there's a way to do it, there's a way to make it work, and I'm going to be willing to try it. I want to see if I can get people to see things my way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works, and other times it doesn't. And that's kind of why I like the guy.
And when I was scrolling on just kind of like audience reception to like both back then and now when I was using the bathroom after this.
Yeah.
It seems pretty mixed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went in thinking about that. I didn't check the box office, but I don't think this blew the fucking lid off of anything.
That's just a difficult thing to keep track of with movies from this era, and then you have to take inflation into account and all that kind of shit. So,
yeah. All that being said, Colin, is there anything that's still nagging you? Anything that you want to get at?
Yeah, I guess I can kind of just wrap up and give a more concise version of my thoughts. Generally speaking, I think there's a lot of micro stuff about this movie that works. There are just lots of individual scenes that I think work in context and like emotional beats that work. But overall, the core of the film kind of being about this relationship and that sort of being a microcosm of the whole situation and sort of looking for humanity to connect with when it's all about to end doesn't work for me because I don't buy these characters' emotional connection to each other.
Okay.
So once you reach the end, and that's sort of what the movie's emotional climax is hinging on, doesn't really hit for me. Once again, very clearly for Tony, it did.
Oh yeah, no. When you can like really relate to these characters and the way that they think and the way that they operate, stuff just sort of clicks, right? Yeah. You can kind of just like I've told Colin about this a lot. That many times throughout the year that I've watched this, I've watched it over and over again because I just need like a moment to break away from the never-ending horror show that is modern living and break away to something that both doesn't make sense at all in this horrible end of the world sort of apocalypse in a way that is not really brought up in media that often. And I also just want something that's familiar and comfortable and like that sort of thing. It just hits a vibe with me. I hate to say that, but it just hits a fucking vibe with me that I absolutely love. Ever since I heard about it, I was looking for this Blu-ray. When we went to the store to find it, and I saw it, I had to like kind of be like, oh, whoa, look at this, and I had to gauge your result to be like, you know about this, and you know, it's one of those things. It's hard to keep under wrap, but I'm glad that I did for this fucking episode, and I'm really glad that we had you all here along with us. It's been a wild ride. We are by no means done. We have a whole nother season coming up. Colin, you want to do any promos for your ideas? Or I guess we got the promo in the last episode. Anything else you want to give them a little hint about back at home?
Back in the 60s, things were a lot more simple.